deadly end to an ordeal that police say started with a dispute over a face mask.
Hey guys, how we doing? Truth Thor here and Dude Man. This is Prince Dude Man, of course, the main Dude Man. Okay, I had to stop everything I was doing today and just come here and do a short, quick video because, oh man, what is coming and what is on the way and what is always already here. All these things are crazy, of course, as you know. But when I saw this particular video today, I thought, oh man, like it's really ramping up. And I know some of you guys are lucky enough to not live in Los Angeles or San Diego or San Francisco or any of these psychotic places where people are just so I you know what, I guess it's really kind of been spreading and spreading and spreading. It's not even just in the major metropolises anymore. Anybody who watches the news enough is going to be brainwashed. If you watch it enough, eventually you're going to start questioning your own intuition. That's how it's designed. Tell a lie, tell it as many times as you can, and eventually you'll start to believe it. Hell, I can remember some lies I told myself long enough that I actually started believing them, until I had a real spiritual awakening and wanted to change my life and the way that I was living. And then I, had a real come to Jesus moment, you could say. I do not claim any particular Messiah. I believe the Messiahs were added in to the original love of God just to, again, divide everybody. But that's neither here nor there. We could get into that later at some point. But I respect everybody no matter what they're feeling. I think I have, so much in common with all religions that it's funny to me that people could actually turn their back on having a relationship with someone because they don't believe in their particular Messiah. You don't believe in Muhammad, you don't believe in Krishna, you don't believe in Mithra or Jesus or Buddha or Hindu. So anyway, you have to put that stuff aside and just realize that we are like literally 95% in agreement until we get to that part, and that should not, that shouldn't ruin the conversation that we can have, because there's so much that we can accomplish together, and apart we're going to fall. United we stand, apart we fall. So anyway, but I came across this video and it was just insane. Pardon the I'm going to give this guy here, what's that, buddy? Yeah, he likes a little snack every now and then. Who doesn't? So, watching this video, and I want you to watch the video.
Also following the growing number of confrontations over wearing masks in this country. Tonight, police body cam of one incident ending in a deadly police shooting. A customer refused service after he was not wearing a mask, who then allegedly stabs another customer, later lunging at an officer. Here's ABC's Alex Perez, and unfortunately, this is disturbing too.
Tonight, a deadly end to an ordeal that police say started with a dispute over a face mask.
Drop the weapon! Drop the weapon!
Body camera video capturing a Michigan sheriff's deputy shooting a man after he charged at her with a knife. He later died at the hospital. That suspect, authorities say, had earlier stabbed a 77-year-old who confronted him about not wearing a mask.
Wear a mask. Let's get through this together, and hopefully someday we'll be back to normal.
We really embrace masking. We really embrace the social distancing and hand washing. We could bring this outbreak to its knees.
Across the country, only 2 states, Iowa and South Dakota, have no mask mandate of any kind.
Now that you've watched the video, I'll put the extended play on in a little bit, but that's the main crux of it. And basically, I wanted you to see, the shooting. So the shooting is that this guy allegedly was angry about not having to wear a mask. And then he got even more angry after being confronted, and he was confronted by a 70-year-old, and that 70-year-old angered him to the point where he stabbed that 70-year-old. Okay, and of course there's no follow up on that news, but they somehow have video of the final confrontation. Okay, the final confrontation, and I bet you we never see any video of the stabbing or anything like that. And that again, they're editorializing this produced staged event. Okay, so they produced this entire thing. They throw in a tiny little clip with this guy walking up to a police cruiser. Okay, and he's walking, waiting for the other actor to exit the vehicle. So the police actor exits the vehicle, and then you see her level her gun, and she fires like I think 4 times, something like that. I didn't count particularly. But boom, 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 boom. And you see him kind of turn his body slightly, like as to use his arm to shield himself. So we would see holes. You would see holes in his shirt or his arm. It would be pretty easy to see that he was getting shot. I don't know if anybody's, ask a hunter. Like if you shoot something close range like that, you're going to see it. You're going to see the damage. It's not a 22. Maybe if you were shooting a 22 or something like that, maybe you wouldn't be able to see it. But if you got 9mm or larger, you're going to see some holes. So, and probably a little bit of blood. So anyway, he takes 4 shots or so, and then he drops his knife, and then he reaches down to pick it up, and she fires like 2 headshots. When he reaches down and picks that knife and she shoots, like he doesn't even move.
Her with a knife.
It's as if she's firing blanks. Hey, what do you know? Firing blanks. And so it's a decently executed play, and then they add in all the editorialized BS before and after it to set the stage as an angry man who won't wear a mask. And the whole reason that they're doing this is they're trying to put us in the same camp as like militia and the domestic terrorist. And the reason they can call us terrorists because the U.S. corporation is it's a corporation, and we are all the enemy. Okay, we are slaves that are managed by this corporation. Anybody who claims United States citizen, anybody who has not gone through the process of becoming private, which I would strongly suggest people start looking up the process of becoming private. There's a guy that I follow. It's at Stop the Pirates blogspot. So he has a lot of great information on there. Stop the Pirates blogspot. And then there's he's got some YouTube videos. They're very low quality produced, but the information he's giving you is worth the listen. And then there's another guy I follow, Yusuf L, who has been he's got the groundwork working through the court systems. He knows how it works, and great information there. Both of them can tell you about living in the private, and you can start your own process. I already got my passport by not choosing a U.S. citizen. I told them my parents weren't U.S. citizens. I'm not a U.S. citizen, and I specifically put that there. I did not put Social Security number in there, and they accepted my application, and they sent me a passport. So there's a process to go through to do that too. You have to put an additional explanatory statement on there, an annex, and that's all legal. And it's all very, very legal if you learn the law. So if you learn the law, you'll find that there's lots of remedies in there for us. But we are usually too lazy and apathetic to get into the remedy because it does take a lot of study. You have to unwind all the BS you've been taught, and then you have to start, relearning how this stuff actually works. I got a Bouvier dictionary and started, I have flashcards and, that I keep right here, and I go through them all the time. And let's see here. Here we go. Inculcate. Inculcate. Inculcate, to impress upon the mind by frequent and empathetic repetition, instill, inculcate, to impress upon the mind by frequent and empathetic repetition. I mean, that was a random pull out of the pile, I swear. And how much does, that's how it's spelled, inculcate. Inculcate. To impress upon the mind by frequent and empathetic repetition, instill, which is what they're doing. You know, they say that this crazy man stabbed this 70-year-old woman. That automatically would get anybody's emotions going, right? And then they say it was because he was confronted about wearing a mask. So now what they're trying to do is make people, I mean, as if they weren't already afraid of people not wearing a mask because of this invisible flu, right? Then now they have this this extra fear that anyone who's not wearing a mask is also crazy and might kill them. So they're trying to inculcate the masses through empathy and repetition, because they keep saying it and saying it and saying it and saying it. This is the first time I've seen something quite so blatant. And again, when I saw the shooting, I went, no. And it's funny because Matt on A Quantum of Conscience had yesterday discussed Max Egan. And I had a back and forth with Max Egan probably a year and a half ago. When the New Zealand event happened, when the New Zealand Bang Bang event happened, that's when Max Egan said, "All right, let's wait. I gotta get my I haven't worked on an Australian accent. I'm trying to pull it up here. I won't do it. I won't terrorize you with trying to figure out an Australian accent right now. But he's got a very heavy Australian accent, and he's like he points you in the direction of, you know, looking at certain colors, you know, and this man, look at this man in the corner walking down the street and he's wearing this color, and look at this man walking down the street and he's wearing that color and this color. And I wish I had screen captured, because I got to see the full video before they scrubbed it from the internet altogether. The full video you would watch and go, no, because you know what? It was the exact same type of video as this, where you have a first-person shooter, right? Like a video game. And, you know, in the New Zealand event, you know, it was a rifle, and the guy goes in there and and I mean, he like mows in a whole corner of people, right? And then he gets up close range and he fires again. And again, everybody kind of gently falls into place, but nothing. I mean, I've seen real shootings, you know. So you see how people fall. You see how people, and also you see blood spatter. You know, that's a very big part of forensics. Forensics is blood spatter. You know, it marks up the. Hey, buddy. It marks up the. I'm gonna give him a little treat here, just because he's a very handsome little boy, right, buddy? So, you know, it marks up the whole area, and again, nothing seemed real about this video, and the way it was all. You know, and then he moved to the other room, and the same thing sort of happened. And then somebody else came running towards him, and he shot that person. And same thing, like nothing looked real about it. It was so like staged and fake, and almost like a CGI video game sort of way. And you know, and then so anyway, it was really, really, and then there was a final victim outside. I say victim, a final scene outside, and took one to the head, and again, there was no blood, you know. So it was really, really weird. It looked so fake, and I wish it was only up. I mean, it wasn't even up for a whole day. That's how fast they pulled it down. So you couldn't analyze it, right? But it was there enough for people who watch it for the first time, who don't know what to look for, would totally bite. You know, they would totally be like, "Oh my God, this is awful," you know. But for me, I played it through a few times, because I'm like, this doesn't look right. Something doesn't look right. Something doesn't look right, you know. And then when Max Egan went through there, instead of him pointing out the obvious that something didn't look right, he starts saying, look at this person walking down here. I'll give up the accent. Look at this person walking down the street. He's wearing red. That's important. That's important to know. Look at this guy walking over there. See the guy with the yellow shirt? Okay, now watch how he. It was like, what? What are you talking about? Like, he's like, that must be an agent, and then this is somebody else, and maybe there's multiple shooters. Like, he was talking about everything other than the fact that the whole thing is phony. So the reason I went off on that little whole thing is, one, good riddance to Max Egan. Yeah, I listened to him for a very long time. He does have a lot of very seemingly spiritually profound things to say, and I think they were well written. I don't know if it was necessarily him just talking off the cuff, because he would not have his face like this. He wouldn't be talking to you the way I'm talking to you now. He would have all kinds of graphics and images, and people would ask him, like, well, how do you have such high-tech graphics and images, and that must be expensive and a lot of time, and then you can just grab it off the internet, and it's like, it takes a lot of time for all that stuff. Anyway, so my whole point being, that wasn't the only thing. I also saw him and this other guy that I'm drawing a huge blank to. I think he's an Irish fella. They got into this tiff, and the other Irish fella, if I could remember his name, oh God. O'Keefe, something O'Keefe. Anyway, he's kind of a truther too, sort of, but he's been on mainstream things. I think I've seen him on CNN and stuff like that. If his name popped up, if I could remember his name, you would know who I'm talking about. And he had this thing with him, and he went on to. This is a while ago, so that's why I'm forgetting. But he went on to a pretty well-known, quote unquote, alternative news outlet, and he did a radio show talking about Ken O'Keefe. Is that right?
Right replied before Max came on, and Ken took it. Collaborator Max Egan went public on his own website and made a number of very serious allegations about Ken personally and the project itself. Max was on this program. Speaking of his app, Ken was.
And I call you out, Ken. You are fucking COINTEL, or you're a very fucking good con man. But you need to give this money back to people and go crawl under a fucking rock. And I don't even care what your response to this show is, mate, because I won't even fucking listen to it. I don't need to. It doesn't matter what you say, because I already know. And now that I know, I cannot unknow. And you are a fucking fraud, 100%.
Max, well, look, we're going to leave it there, right?
Anyway, he went through. The mailman's here, so I hear him. Thank you. I see him. He's right there. So thank you. And they were collecting money for this whole new foundation, and they collected like a couple 100,000, something like that. And apparently, this guy Ken O'Keefe, if I'm saying his name right, I could look it up in 2 minutes, but I'm not going to take time right now. He apparently disappeared, moved, took all the money, didn't know where. Nobody knew where he went, and Max was trying to get a hold of him. So Max went on this radio show with another Irish guy. It's a famous Irish guy's radio show, and then he was, boy, when Matt was talking about the venom he was spewing yesterday at the Australian government, that was the same way he was with this guy. He was absolutely just like, F this guy, and calling him the C word and all that stuff, and he was just vicious. It was like, whoa, like, it was nothing, and that was kind of the time when I went, what is going on? Like, he doesn't seem like a warrior of love and peace and shining his light. He's two very distinct personalities within that guy. So anyway, just to go on and on and on, I totally agree with what Matt was saying. He was totally part of the system. He was part of the act. He was part of the show. And I won't miss him, Oh, just like Alex Jones. Yeah, Alex. It's funny. He mentioned Alex Jones was kind of a cartoon. He is very much a cartoon. He's nobody you really take serious. He's really like, oh, he's really gonna go beat someone up. Just like I will eat your neighbors. You're just like, what? Like anyway. So back to this one. This is another event, a first-person shooter. Kind of looks like a video game where you go up and pop, 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 and the guy reaches down and pop, pop again. And if you look at it, there's no damage. There's nothing looks like. If you take 4 shots like that, you're most likely going to drop straight down. Okay? If you take 4 shots like that and you drop your knife, you're not going to bend over and pick up that knife. And if you do pick up that knife and take 2 more headshots, you're not. Well, they cut the video off right there, right? Which is, who knows why. Probably because he didn't fall. He probably stood back up with the knife again and continued the scene. Okay? It's an acting scene. So anyway, just really take a good look at that video. Understand that it's just, I mean, I'm sure most of you do. And even Matt says, I don't really get into that stuff. I'm not getting into it too much because it's a very short one. But it was just something I thought, you know what? Let me just get on there and talk for a minute. And because it's going to get worse. It is totally going to get worse. They are trying to make demons out of everybody who's not complying with this stuff. My last video where I had a lady at the tippy top of a mountain. I mean, we were at the top of a mountain. You couldn't get any higher. And she's telling me, F you this, F you that, because I didn't have a mask on at the tippy top of a mountain. So, anyway, yeah, I would share your feelings about this video. Let people know, let your neighbors know, like, that's not real. I have a neighbor who's a cop, so I'm looking forward to sharing this with him. I have it on my phone. I'm going to be like, hey, take a look at this. Tell me what you think. And I'm sure, because he used to call me wacky, and now he doesn't call me wacky anymore. He's like, you might be onto something. So, you know what? There's hope for talking to people. It's not a hopeless scenario. There is hope to talking with people. If you talk to, just like them using repetition, for them to inculcate us through, to impress upon the mind by frequent and empathetic repetition, to instill, for them to inculcate us, we can inculcate them. We have to be courageous enough to stand up and keep saying our mind. We have to be courageous enough to not back down. I'm going to show another video soon of a grocery situation I had in which they ended up calling. They wanted to call 911, at which time I did leave because I had the dude man here in the car, and just in case things did go sideways, I didn't want to leave him in the car or have him taken by animal services or anything like that. So I did at that point when they said, call 911 because he doesn't have a mask on. Are you kidding me? You're calling 911 for a mask? But people are crazy, and they're going to keep programming them to distance themselves from us even more. And I think it's just important that we keep standing our ground. I wear my my Mask Hole shirt everywhere I go. You can get these shirts, by the way. I am selling Mask Hole shirts. Let everybody know what you think, okay? You got a guy over here 6 feet. I obey the government. What's it say again? Oh, government will pay me to obey. Others tell me what to think. Oh, and he's not wearing a mask. So anyway, I did design it, but I can't remember all the little sayings. But it makes me laugh every time. I went and got juice this morning, and the girl who had a mask on started laughing. She's like, "That's awesome. I love that shirt." So again, even people with masks, they're not necessarily true mask holes. They're just victims of circumstance with their jobs. Like I know her boss. I know the guy that owns a coffee shop, and because I've been talking to him about, like, look, this isn't a law. A guideline is not a law. The media can say a mandate, but it's not truly a mandate, because I have the actual printed out the LA County Department guidelines, the Department of Health guidelines, and on there it specifically says, under do I have to wear a mask? There's a section that says, do I have to wear a mask? I'll put a little so do I have to wear a mask? It says we ask. We ask. Okay? And my answer is no. You can ask. You can certainly ask. I can ask you for $1,000. Can I have $1,000? No? Oh, well, how dare you? How come you're not going to give me $1,000? You don't want to? Oh, well, I think we should put you in prison. I think, we should shun you in the neighborhood. Oh, by the way, I'm definitely the pariah. I am the talk of the neighborhood here, not wearing a mask. Everybody is wearing a mask in my neighborhood. Everybody. But I always love, you go into the store, and if there's somebody in there who doesn't have a mask, and you're like, hey, what's up? Hey, what's up, man? Mm-hmm. Sometimes you don't even need to say, hey, what's up? You just go, mm-hmm. Like, you know each other are not brainwashed. So anyway, it's a ask. It's a suggestion. It's a guideline. It is not a law. There's no statutory law behind it. They can't penalize you without applying a statutory code to it. When you get a ticket, there's a code for speeding. Okay? There is no code for not wearing a mask. So stop wearing a mask. Unless you're a mask hole. If you're wearing it just because you're worried what other people will think, you are a mask hole. Okay? If you're wearing it because you believe the news, can't even say that with a straight face, then you are a mask hole. If you have to go into the grocery and they're going to call 911 on you, and again, I would suggest you try without. What I do, because again, there are some businesses I've been into, UPS, Staples. There are some businesses, Ralph's. I went into Ralph's supermarket. So there are businesses that you can go into, and what I did is I printed out the department guidelines, and right at the top it says if you're directed by a medical provider, then you don't have to wear a mask. Okay? So who provides your medical needs? Medicine. Who provides that? Do I have somebody else providing that, or do I provide that? I provide my medical needs. Therefore, I am the medical provider. So I make my own choices. Again, it's all in the language, okay? It didn't say a physician. It didn't say a physician. It doesn't say an MD. It says medical provider. Okay? And then you go a step further and you find a doctor. Like, I have a friend who's a doctor who is in total agreement with everything I'm saying. And he's like, no, you shouldn't be wearing a mask. I said, thank you. So now I have a physician and a medical provider that have both told me I shouldn't be wearing a mask. And that's plenty for me. But even if you skip down through there, it says if you have trouble breathing. Well, I tell you what, when I put a mask on, I had a mask here, or a bandana here a minute ago. Let's just use, here it is. So I have a bandana, okay? If you have trouble breathing is what it says. Watch what happens when I breathe. See how the bandana comes in? That obstructs my breathing. And I tell you what, like, I can't pull the sheets up over my head on my bed, because when I had the sheets over my head and I'm breathing and I have that warm, recirculated carbon dioxide air, I can't do it. I gotta have fresh air. So I take the covers off my head. Like, if the sun comes up and I want some more time sleeping and I can't find my eye shades anywhere, And I'm just like, I'll pull the covers over my head. I can't sleep that way because it obstructs my breathing. So imagine what a mask is. Like, even wearing a mask for 5 minutes makes me start to just crumble mentally, physically. Like, it's just something I can't do. It's something I won't do. I won't do it. No, there's no reason for it. I don't see any sick people. Okay? I don't trust the media. I don't trust the medical system. I don't trust the government to get my news. I trust these right here. Okay? So if you show me a video, that's one thing. I get to analyze that, see if I believe that. But the other thing is I go out all the time and I don't see sick people. I don't see groups of sick people. I don't see neighborhoods coming down sick. Not at all. And of course, China with only four deaths, and there's another doctor. I'm going to put another video too where I've got 2 different doctors, and one of them is saying how there's, Vietnam. There's nobody sick in Vietnam, and they're like, poor and have horrible healthcare system. So anyway, I think I've rambled enough. This video is disgusting propaganda. It is disgusting propaganda. You got this semi-Amish looking douchebag who's telling you, well, if everybody wore a mask, this thing would be over in 2 weeks. Boo. Like, it's all nonsense. I mean, when you have people telling you the second wave's coming, I think I'm preaching to the choir for most people here. Most people know that this is a controlled system. And I will tell you, there are still some people here lingering on and hanging on to the fact that their vote matters. Your vote doesn't matter. You registering to vote is simply, when you register, you give something away. You give ownership of it away when you register. So when you register your firearm, you're actually registering. First of all, it has a serial number on it because it's already owned by the United States corporation, because the manufacturer is registering it with the United States corporation via that serial number. And then when you register it, you are also agreeing that that is belonging to the United States corporation. So when they come and ask for your guns, and let me tell you, they're going to do that. If you don't think that they're going to come and take this Second Amendment away that everybody's holding desperately onto, you have contracted with the United States corporation, first of all. Second of all, you are using their weapon. That's their gun. That's got their number on it. That's theirs. You're just leasing it from them. So when they come back and say, we want our property back, they're allowed to take it. So for you to say, oh, hell no, I'm not going to let them take my gun, you don't have a leg to stand on. Now, you can't get an 80%er and finish it yourself, and then that's your gun, okay? Your firearm, I should say, not gun. Gun is for attack. Firearm is for defense. So it's your firearm. It is your defensive arm, okay? When you go to defend yourself, that's your arm, okay? We take up arms, okay? So you gotta this is part of the living in the private and public. You have to separate yourself from the public. They do not mix. So if you stay on the private side, they do not mix. They can't get in your business, which is why when they said they're going to call 911, there's only so much I can do, because one, I, living as a private man, can't go on the attack of a public commercial entity. So the co-op in Santa Monica, this particular grocery store, they're registered with the city. They are a commercial entity. They are corporate, and the only way I would be able to say, quote unquote, sue them is if I were to use my straw man, the corporate persona, my in legis, meaning in law name. That's one of my cards here. If I want to use my in legis name and try to go and sue them for violating my civil law, my California Civil Code. Here's another one, juristic person. So they have a bunch of different, in legis and juristic person, in legis, a creature of the law, an artificial being as contrasted with a natural person. This is in Bouvier's Law Dictionary, okay? Or Black's Law Dictionary. I can't remember. I work out of both of them. An artificial being as contrasted with a natural person. So contrast, the opposite. Applied to corporations considered as deriving their existence entirely from the law, a creature of the law, in legis. These are definitions. If people knew them, they might start to get their head out of their asses and start learning how to stop contracting with people like the persons, like again, when you hear the word persons, that means corporation. You're an individual. You got to stop contracting with persons like the U.S. corporation. Okay? Oh, so people are so afraid of certain terms like sovereign and stuff like that. We are sovereign people, okay? This term sovereign citizen, that does not exist, okay? That was made up, just like a conspiracy theorist. There are conspiracies and there are not conspiracies. Then there's there are known criminal activity. Conspiracy is a secret, whereas there are known activities. There's plenty of known activities. But then they coined this term, conspiracy theory, to cut the truth out of what people are talking about. Same thing with saying you're sovereign, like you are your own master. Nobody put these people. I didn't vote these people to be lord over me, and that's me coming from. I voted for Obama twice. Because at that time, that's what I felt. That's where I was, right? And it wasn't and then I started on the Bernie Sanders train before I hit a wall about 5 years ago. And I started with Building 7. That was my red pill, and that's a red pill I use for everybody. I love the inflated tire thing too. That's fantastic. But Building 7, like what? Everybody will tell you the first 2 buildings came down because of jet fuel. Well, what about the third one? And then I have a video with John Kerry saying, we pulled it. We pulled it. We brought it down. So anyway, so much as to say that everything that these guys are not breaking the law. Everyone goes, they're going against our constitutional rights. No. First of all, in the Constitution, it says Congress shall make no law that supersedes contract. You got to know your Constitution. So if you make a contract with the United States Corporation, which is what you're doing, then there's no. First of all, the Supreme Court also said that the Constitution is for the state. They're guidelines for the state. They're not for you to use. They're for the state to use. Plus, if you go into court, which is their domain, that's their system. You don't want to use their system. You don't want to get in court if you can at all stay out of court. And usually, if you do things the right way, you can stay out of court. You can do everything. The pen is mightier than the sword. So if you do your right paperwork and you know who you are in a lawful sense, in a legal sense, then you should never have to step foot in a court. But if you ever do, you have to know how to behave. You have to stay in honor, is what it's called. If you go in there and you argue, you're in dishonor. Because the only person that the court system is there to address is your fictional, in legis, juristic person, all capital name, or AKA straw man name. So I think everybody should really, it's going to be very important that people start learning about that. I mean, immediately. Like, everybody should be shutting their TVs off, putting all their other hobbies on hold. Everything should be put on hold, and you should really learn about living your life in the private, because what's going to happen is they're going to start implementing these laws, especially with vaccines and stuff like that. And they're going to tell you got to have a vaccine. Now, if you have a contract with the United States Corporation, you've already agreed that you're going to do what they tell you to do. Contract supersedes anything. That's from the beginning of time. Any contract you make supersedes anything. There's no other law above contract law. I mean, God's law. But if you agree to do something, you're bound. Just like these guys are. These guys are bound by law not to mix public and private, which is why if you go into court and you carry yourself the right way and you stay in honor, you'll walk out of court. I don't care what crime you committed. Well, there are some. I mean, if you hurt somebody or their property, that's going to be different. And I shouldn't even call it a crime. I mean, what statute you violated is what I really mean. So anyway, I would suggest people really dig into that. Go look under Meet Your Straw Man. That's a really good place to start. I know Yusuf L. again, and the other guy, Stop the Pirates, blogspot.com. Really good information. And again, I might do a little bit of stuff on that later, but for right now, keep talking to people, okay? We can inculcate them, okay? That's how we do it. It took me a year to break the barrier with my neighbor. You know, he's a cop. He thinks he knows it all. And but it's worked. So, and I have a couple other people that have woken up too. And now they reach out to me all the time and they're like, "Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? What do you think about that?" Because they realize that, oh shit, he's right. He knows what he's talking about, you know? And that only came from many girlfriendless hours of study. I always wondered, you know, well, how come I'm single so long? You know, maybe it was because it was my destiny to dig deep into this stuff, you know. And I did go through the whole Mystery Babylon, Bill Cooper, Mystery Babylon. I think it was a real good foundation for me because I got to really understand their writings from the earliest time, all the secret societies, their writings, how they think. You know, when they talk about "in God we trust," God to them is Lucifer. So I apologize. We got the trash trucks coming outside now. So once you understand how they think, and you know, go through Aleister Crowley's teachings, and you know, you get a really, really good foundation to be able to build off and see the rest of the matrix. So, you know, that was my humble beginnings. After I found out about 9/11, I dug deep. So now I'm getting into, you know, learning about contract law and trust, irrevocable business trust. So anyway, I digress a little bit more, but just want to share that video, and I appreciate y'all listening. Dude, man. Hey, buddy. Come here. Sit. Say wave. Say bye-bye. Yeah. We'll see you guys next time. Put your thinking caps on.
Also following the growing number of confrontations over wearing masks in this country. Tonight, police body cam of one incident ending in a deadly police shooting. A customer refused service after he was not wearing a mask, who then allegedly stabs another customer, later lunging at an officer. Here's ABC's Alex Perez, and unfortunately, this is disturbing too.
Tonight, a deadly end to an ordeal that police say started with a dispute over a face mask.
Drop the weapon! Drop the weapon!
Body camera video capturing a Michigan sheriff's deputy shooting a man after he charged at her with a knife. He later died at the hospital. That suspect, authorities say, had earlier stabbed a 77-year-old who confronted him about not wearing a mask.
Wear a mask. Let's get through this together, and hopefully someday we'll be back to normal.
This as the public divide and list of violent encounters over masks grows. This one happening July 5th in Miami. The CDC director saying the virus could be controlled in weeks if people follow the guidelines.
We really embrace masking. We really embrace the social distancing and hand washing. We could bring this outbreak to its knees.
Across the country, only 2 states, Iowa and South Dakota, have no mask mandate of any kind. Walmart and Sam's Club today announcing customers beginning Monday must wear face coverings, joining a growing list of companies including Best Buy, Costco, and Starbucks, now requiring them in all stores.
And David, at least 24 states going even further, not only requiring a mask when in a business, but also asking residents to wear one whenever outside. David?
All right, Alex Perez with us.